Hello, hello everyone. In this lecture today, I'm going to talk to you about quality risk management ICSQ 9 guidelines. So, what is risk? Risk is defined as the combination of probability of occurrence of a harm and the severity of that harm. So, basically, risk is equal to probability of a harm multiplied by the severity of occurrence of that harm. The manufacturing and use of a drug product, including its component, it entails some sort of risk or some degree of risk. Therefore, quality risk management is a systemic process for the assessment, control, communication, and review of the risk to the quality of the drug or medicinal product across the product life cycle. So, what is the principle of quality risk management? The evaluation of the risks to the quality should be based on the scientific knowledge and ultimately linked to the protection of the patient. So the evaluation of the risk to the quality should be based on scientific knowledge and ultimately linked the protection of the patient. That is the principle. The level of the effort, formality, and the documentation of the quality risk management process should be commensurate with the level of the risk. Okay, the level of effort, formality, documentation of the quality risk management process should be proportional with the level of the risk. So this is the principle of quality risk management. So then what is the process of quality risk management? Quality risk management process starts with initiate quality risk management process, and the next step is risk assessment. So basically risk identification followed by risk analysis followed by risk evaluation, and then after the evaluation of the risk, then risk control measures are implemented. This includes risk reduction, risk acceptance, and after that we will have output or result of the quality risk management process, and finally risk review events. You can see that the risk communication is happening during various levels of quality risk management, and also these are different risk management tools. Different risk management tools are utilized to do quality risk management. Okay, so this is the process of quality risk management. So then, who has the responsibilities for quality risk management? Quality risk management activities are usually but not always undertaken by interdisciplinary teams. The team should include experts from the appropriate areas, for example, quality unit, business development, engineering, regulatory affairs, production operations, sales and marketing, legal, statistics, etc., in addition to the individuals who are knowledgeable about the quality risk management process. Decision makers should take the responsibility for coordinating quality risk management across various functions and departments of their organization. Decision maker should assure a quality risk management process is defined, deployed, reviewed, and that adequate resources are available. So, initiating a quality risk management process. Quality risk management should include systematic processes designed to coordinate, facilitate, and improve science-based decision making with respect to the risk. Define the problem or the risk question. So the first step is define the problem or the risk question, including pertinent assumptions, identifying the potential for risk. Assemble background information and data on the potential hazard, harm, or human health impact relevant to the risk management. Identify a leader and necessary resources. Specify a timeline, deliverables, and appropriate level of decision making for the risk management process. The next step is risk assessment. Risk assessment consists of identification of hazards. So, identification of hazards as well as the analysis and evaluation of risks associated with the exposure to those hazards. So basically, what are the questions that are asked during risk assessment? What might go wrong? What is the likelihood or probability that it will go wrong? And what are the consequences or severity of the harm? Risk identification. Risk identification is a systematic use of information to identify hazards, referring to the risk question or a problem description. Information can include historical data, theoretical analysis, informed opinions, and the concerns of stakeholders. Risk identification addresses the question what might go wrong, including identifying the possible consequences. This provides the basis for further steps in quality risk management process. Risk analysis. Risk analysis is the estimation of the risk associated with identified hazards. Risk analysis is the estimation of the risk associated with identified hazards. It is the qualitative or quantitative process of linking the likelihood of occurrence and severity of harms. In some risk management tools, the ability to detect the harm, detectability, also factors in estimation of risk. Risk evaluation. Risk evaluation compares the identified and analyzed risk against the given risk criteria. Risk evaluations consider the strength of evidence for all three of the fundamental questions. The output of a risk assessment is either a quantitative estimate of the risk or a qualitative description of a range of risk. When risk is expressed quantitatively, a numerical probability is used. Alternatively, risk can be expressed using qualitative descriptors such as high, medium, or low, which should be defined in as much detail as possible. Risk control. Risk control includes decision making to reduce or accept the risks. The purpose of risk control is to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. The amount of efforts used for risk control should be proportional to the significance of the risk. Is the risk above an acceptable level? What can be done to reduce or eliminate risks? What is the appropriate balance among benefits, risks, and resources? Are new risks introduced as a result of the identified risks being controlled? Risk reduction. Risk reduction focuses on a process for mitigation or avoidance of quality risk when it exceeds specified level. Okay, so risk reduction focuses on a process for mitigation or avoidance of quality risk when it exceeds a specified level. Risk reduction might include actions taken to mitigate the severity and the probability of harm, processes that improve the detectability of the hazards, and quality risks might also be used as a part of risk control strategy. The implementation of risk reduction measures can introduce new risks into the system or increase the significance of other existing risks. It might be appropriate to revisit the risk assessment to identify and evaluate any possible change in risk after implementing a risk reduction process. Risk acceptance. Acceptance is a decision to accept the risk. It is a decision to accept the risk. Risk acceptance can be a formal decision to accept the residual risk, or it can be a passive decision in which residual risks are not specified. For some types of harms, even the best quality risk management practices might not entirely eliminate the risk. In these circumstances, it might be agreed that an appropriate quality risk management strategy has been applied and that quality risk is reduced to a specified level or acceptable level. Risk communication. Risk communication is the sharing of the information about risk and risk management between the decision makers and others. Parties can communicate at any stage of the risk management process. The output or the result of the quality risk management process should be appropriately communicated and documented. Communications might include those among interested parties, regulators and industry and the patient within a company, industry, or a regulatory authority. The included information might relate to the existence, nature, form, probability, severity, acceptability, control, treatment, detectability, or other aspects of risk to the quality. Between the industry and the regulatory authorities, communication concerning the quality risk management decisions might be effected through the existing channels as specified in regulations and guidelines. Risk review. Risk management should be an ongoing part of the quality management process. So it's an ongoing part of quality management process. A mechanism to review or monitor events should be implemented. The output or results of the risk management process should be reviewed to take into account new knowledge and experience. Okay. Once a quality risk management process has been initiated, that processes should continue to be utilized for events that might impact the original quality risk management decision, whether these events are planned, results of product review, for example, inspections, audits, change control, or unplanned root cause from failure investigations or recall. The frequency of any review should be based upon the level of the risk. Risk review might include reconsideration of risk acceptance decisions. Risk management methodology. Quality risk management supports a scientific and practical approach to decision making. Okay, scientific and practical approach to decision making. It provides documented, transparent, and reproducible methods to accomplish steps of the quality risk management processes based on current knowledge about assessing the probability, severity, and sometimes detectability of the risk. The pharmaceutical industry and the regulators can assess and manage risk using recognized risk management tools or internal procedures. Basic risk management facilitation tools are facilitation methods, failure mode effects analysis, failure mode effects and criticality analysis, fault tree analysis, hazard analysis and critical control points, hazard operability analysis, preliminary hazard analysis, risk ranking and filtering, supporting statistical tools. Failure mode effects analysis or FMEA. FMEA provides an evaluation of potential failure modes for processes and their likely effect on outcomes or product performance. So it provides an evaluation of potential failure modes for processes and their likely effect on outcomes and or product performance. Once failure modes are established, risk reduction can be used to eliminate, contain, reduce, or control the potential failures. Failure mode effect analysis relies on product and process understanding. Failure mode effect analysis methodically breaks down the analysis of complex processes into manageable steps. It is a powerful tool for summarizing the important modes of failure, factors causing these failures, and the likely effects of these failures. Failure mode effect analysis can be used to prioritize risk and monitor the effectiveness of risk control activities. FMEA can be applied to equipment and facilities and might be used to analyze manufacturing operation and its effect on product or process. It identifies elements or operations within the system that render it vulnerable. The next method is failure mode effects and critical analysis or FMECA. This might be extended to incorporate an investigation of average degree of severity of the consequences, their respective probabilities of occurrence, and their detectability, and thereby becoming a failure mode effect and criticality analysis. Okay, failure mode effective and criticality analysis can be extended to incorporate an investigation of degree of severity of the consequences, their respective probabilities of occurrence, and their detectability, thereby becoming a failure mode effect and criticality analysis. In order for such an analysis to be performed, the product or process specifications should be established. FMECA can identify places where additional preventive actions might be appropriate to minimize the risks. FMECA application in the pharmaceutical industry should mostly be utilized for failures and risks associated with manufacturing processes. Okay, failures and risk associated with manufacturing processes. However, it is not limited to this application. The output of FMECA is a relative risk score for each failure mode, which is used to rank modes on a relative risk basis. Fault tree analysis, FTA. The FTA tool is an approach that assumes failure of the functionality of a product or process. This assumes failure of the functionality of a product or a process. This tool evaluates the system or a subsystem failures one at a time, but can combine multiple causes of failure by identifying causal chains. The results are represented pictorially in the form of tree of fault tree modes. That's why it's called fault tree analysis, because the results are represented pictorially in the form of tree of fault modes. At each level in the tree, combinations of the fault modes are described with the logical operators and or etc. FTA relies on experts' process understanding to identify causal factors. FTA can be used to establish the pathway to the root cause of the failure. Okay, FTA can be used to establish the pathway to the root cause of the failure. FTA can be used to investigate complaints or deviations in order to fully understand their root cause and to ensure that intended improvements will fully resolve issue and not lead to other issues. FTA can be used to investigate complaints or deviations in order to fully understand their root cause and to ensure that intended improvements will fully resolve issue and not lead to other issues. It's just the repetition here, sorry. It is useful for risk assessment and in developing monitoring program. Hazard analysis and critical control points. So HACCP. HACCP is a systematic, proactive, and a preventive tool for assuring product quality, reliability, and safety. It is a structured approach that applies technical and scientific principles to analyze, evaluate, prevent, and control the risk or adverse consequences of hazard due to the design, development, production, and use of products. HACCP consists of the following 7 steps. Conduct a hazard analysis and identify preventive measures for each step of the process. Determine the critical control points. Establish critical limits. Establish a system to monitor the critical control points. Establish the corrective action to be taken when monitoring indicates that critical control points are not in state of control. Establish system to verify that the HACCP system is working effectively, and establish a record keeping system. Establish a record keeping system is the point number 7. HACCP might be used to identify and manage risks associated with physical, chemical, and biological hazards, including microbiological contamination. Hazard operability analysis, or HAZOP. Hazard operability analysis is based on the theory that assumes that risk events are caused by deviations from the design or operating intentions. Okay, this is based on a theory that assumes that risk events are caused by deviations from the design or operating intentions. It is a systemic brainstorming technique for identifying hazards using so-called guide words. So what are the guide words? For example, no, more, other than, part of, etc. are applied to relevant parameters. For example, contamination, temperature, to help identify potential deviation from normal use or design intentions. It often uses a team of people with expertise covering the design of the process or product and its application. Hazard operability analysis can be applied to manufacturing processes, including outsourced production and formulation, as well as upstream suppliers, equipments, and facilities for drug substances and drug medicinal products. It has also been used primarily in the pharmaceutical industry for evaluating process safety hazards. The output of hazard operability analysis is a list of critical operations for risk management. This facilitates regular monitoring of critical points in the manufacturing process. Preliminary hazard analysis (PHA) is a tool of analysis based on applying prior experience or knowledge of hazard or failure to identify future hazards. Okay, prior experience of knowledge of hazard or failure is used to identify future hazards, hazardous situation, and events that might cause harm, as well as to estimate their probability of occurrence for a given activity, facility, product, or system. The tool consists of the identification of possibilities that the risk event happens, the qualitative evaluation of the extent of possible injury or damage to the health that could result, a relative ranking of the hazard using a combination of severity and likelihood of occurrence, and the identification of possible remedial measures. Preliminary hazard analysis might be useful when analyzing existing systems or prioritizing hazards where circumstances prevent a more extensive technique from being used. It can be used for product, processes, facility design, as well as to evaluate the types of hazards for general product type, and then the product class, and finally the specific product. Preliminary hazard analysis is most commonly used early in the development of a project when there is a little information on design, details, or operating procedures. Thus, it will often be a precursor to further studies. Risk ranking and filtering. This is another method. Risk ranking and filtering is a tool for comparing and ranking the risks. Risk ranking of a complex system typically requires the evaluation of multiple diverse quantitative and qualitative factors for each risk. The tool involves breaking down a basic risk question into many components as needed to capture factors involved in the risk. These factors are combined into a single relative risk score that can be used for ranking risks. Filters in the form of weighting factors or cutoff for risk scores can be used to scale or fit the risk ranking to management or policy objectives. Risk ranking and filtering can be used to prioritize manufacturing sites for inspection audit by regulators or industry. Risk ranking methods are particularly helpful in situations in which the portfolio risks and the underlying consequences to be managed are diverse and difficult to compare using a single tool. Risk ranking is useful when risk management needs to evaluate both quantitatively assessed and qualitatively assessed risk within the same organizational framework. Supporting statistical tools. Statistical tools can support and facilitate quality risk management. They can enable effective data assessment, aid in determining the significance of the data, and facilitate more reliable decision making. A listing of some of the principal statistical tools commonly used in pharmaceutical industry are control charts, for example, acceptance control charts with arithmetic average, 1 and warning limits, cumulative sum charts, Shu-Watt control charts, weighted moving average, design of experiments, histograms, Pareto charts, and process capability analysis.